And welcome back to the Texas Longhorn Football Channel. I'm your host, your main man, Anwar Richardson. It's no Jeff Ketchum today. It's summertime. Time for my man to be on vacation and enjoy himself. But I'm back. I am here. So before we get too far, before we get too deep into anything, do me a favor. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share this video when it's all said and done with your friends. We share all these crazy things on social media. Let's not share all that political stuff and argue with your friends. Your friends don't care about what you think. Okay, so share the Longhorn conversations that you guys will actually like and enjoy, because I'm sure for the most part, especially as relates to social media, the people who are on there are usually a kinfolk like you guys are. So share, like, subscribe, all those kind of things. It's me. I am back from Miami, baby. I flew down there on Friday of this past week. Me and my girl went down there, got back there on Tuesday. By the way, here's a great recommendation. If you go to Miami and you get a chance to get a reservation at Mila, my man Sam for Big City Wings recommended this place. If you get a chance to go to Mila, go there. It is amazing as far as the food experience. I have become somewhat of a foodie and a little bit of a food snob lately. Actually, the past few years, you guys know about my experience at Del Frisco's in Houston, but Mila is absolutely fantastic. So if you get a chance to go there, it's great food. It's kind of like an Asian kind of cuisine, but they do have stuff for the land lovers that are out there. Amazing drinks, amazing ambiance. It's one of those places when you take your date out or your wife out, hopefully not your mistress, but you take someone significant that's out there, you got to know that you're going to spend a grip. You're going to spend a little bit of money, but it's absolutely going to be worth it. Got a chance to do a bunch of other things down there in South Beach. Went to PM Steakhouse as well. Pretty good sides. The steak was it was okay, but overall everything else was pretty good, pretty solid. So highly recommend it. I was able to get some sun. I kind of enjoy myself and kind of refresh, rejuvenate, recharge. You know how guys is. And sometimes in summertime, we all need to kind of take a break, especially when we know we're going to be sitting there looking at kids all summer long. So it's funny. One of my friends, who's also one of my social media, is also a huge Longhorn fan. His name is Ronald. So shout out to my man Ronald, who also goes by the name of Pitt, which, by the way, not quite sure how he got that nickname. You know, because nicknames are sometimes given to you. You don't really have a choice in that nickname. And so I don't know where the name Pitt came from, but I guess it's not one of the worst nicknames. It's not Stinky. It's not Booger. It's not Aggie. All right. That's probably, which one is the worst one, Stinky or Aggie, right? I guess you got to decide for you guys, for your purposes as Longhorn fans, which has the worst nickname, Aggie or Sooner. I'll let you ponder that one for a while as you vomit in your mouth. Oh, I can't wait to get trolled by all the Aggies and Sooner fans after this video. But he was saying, man, Anwar, you guys have been on vacation. I need a video. Like, you got to give me something, right? And I said, you know what? He's right. So I started thinking about topics that I wanted to talk about, things that we can kind of get into and discuss here in the early stages of June. And I really went back into my head about some stuff that Steve Sarkisian said at the Touchdown Club of Houston. It really has still resonated with me because it's only been, a couple of weeks ago. And there's some things that I really like to extract and have us talk about. Because when I start thinking about this upcoming season and I start thinking about the potential of success that this program may have and what it could eventually be, I think what Sarkeesian said this summer will be one of the things that we go back to. It's kind of the bookmark, right? The thing that we'll go back to and say, you know what? He said this back in May, and now I see why this is relevant in October or November and December. These things I think matter. I always like to take the mental notes of the things that the coaches say because they are important. And he revealed something that gave us a peek, I believe, behind the curtain, peak of something that, again, we'll get into in a second, but allow me to set it up like this, okay? When I started thinking about it, let's start here. Change is hard. And when we start thinking of the changes that occur, especially in life. Like think about relationship changes, right? It becomes difficult when you get out of one relationship that's usually a bad one, right? Very few people break up from someone that's in because it was a great relationship, the greatest relationship I've ever had, and I just decided I don't want to be with someone unless that person has major issues, in which case that person did you a favor. But change is hard. It is difficult. And what often happens is when you get into that next relationship, there's an adjustment period, right? Because you're getting used to something new, someone new, and then a lot of times you have a lot of PTSD that's involved with that, right? Because you've been in a bad relationship. I mean, maybe you were in a relationship where she pulled a knife out on you in the kitchen during an argument. Maybe you guys were in a relationship where she tried to run her car over you in the driveway because she was upset about something. Maybe was that just me? Oh, my bad. Hey, I'm good now. I'm good now. I'm good now. I've survived. I've moved on to greener pastures, and I'm doing good. So maybe I said too much, but it's relevant to the story of what I'm in the setup of what I'm trying to get to, because no matter what, even if it's good, it's still a struggle because you're trying to get used to something that's new, someone else that's new, and so sometimes you don't trust it, right? Because you're thinking to yourself, why are they doing that thing? Why are they acting that way? Why is this? Why? You ever try to go to someone who's been through bad things and you try to like bring them flowers or bring them things or do nice things for them, and they're like they don't trust it because like I'm not used to that. That's never happened. You're like, well, this is just what I should do. And it takes them a while to get used to that. Again, that's if it's a good situation. And when I think back to a certain situation with Charlie Strong and that new relationship that formed when he took over here, let's think about how difficult that change was for all the players within that program. You had guys who were recruited by Mac Brown, who liked Mac Brown, who believed in Mac Brown. He gets fired, and they throw in Charlie Strong. And Charlie Strong comes in with this thought and belief that Texas guys are soft. Texas guys and Texas players, they ain't got it. He liked his South Florida players, right? He liked the Dade County, Polk County, Broward County, Osceola. Like that's the kind of guys he wanted. He wanted the Florida guys because he felt like those were the tough guys. Those are the guys that helped him win at Louisville. And he felt like when he got here to Texas, he didn't have a lot of dogs. And so that's what he started thinking about going into. He started leaning into, let me go back to Florida, my base, where all my dogs are at. And that's where I'm going to get the best players, the best talent that's possible. But what also happened with Charlie Strong in year one is that there became sometimes a disconnect between him and the players. And so Charlie came in, we all think of Charlie at the end, right? We think of Charlie at the end, the nicer guy, the guy that after the Kansas loss, the players come up to the press conference because they want to support him and rally around him, and how all the players loved Charlie and how great of a guy he was. But we always forget, sometimes we don't tell the full story. Charlie wasn't liked in year one. Remember, Charlie was kicking everybody off the team. I mean, everybody can get it. Like if you were acting up, if you weren't doing the right thing, you was out. Now, clearly, one of a couple of situations involved some accusations against two young men that later that thing got cleared up on their behalf. But any person that he felt like wasn't doing the things that he wanted to do, that was problematic. Remember, Charlie had his 5 rules that he was posted. Now, it wasn't necessarily anything new, but you remember they had the 5 rules of the no guns, the no abusing women. Like he had all these things that were written down. And it was a struggle for Coach Strong in year one. There was guys who didn't want to get on board with him just because, I don't know about this new relationship that I'm in. I was comfortable in my previous relationship, not so comfortable in this new relationship. You're stretching me in ways that I don't want to be stretched. And then Tom Herman comes along, and it's the same struggle in a different way. Ironically, what did he say? These Texas guys are soft. More specifically, the Charlie Strong guys are soft. And we've got to find a way to toughen them up. And Tom did. Now, Tom went in a totally different direction. Because Tom went from day one, he would sit the F up in meetings. We got P charts. I mean, he was the guy that I am whooping ass and taking names. I am going to make you into tough players, so you'll be more competitive on Saturdays. Which, to a large degree, it was very successful, their approach. But you remember, people didn't like that. Remember, people didn't like that at first. Remember hearing the complaints about the parents after Tom Herman had the initial meeting, and how he started telling them things that they can or cannot do. Don't approach him. Don't talk to the media. Do all this kind of stuff. And all the parents kind of flipped out. This was on the heels of him talking to the players, and all the players kind of freaking out. And it was almost Tom and his crew versus the world. It was a challenge for them. It was a challenge for him to get people on board and get people to believe, to the point. Remember, after year one, you had guys going pro and skipping the bowl game, and that was kind of supposed to be viewed as like, damn, these guys just want to get out the program because they don't want to be around Tom anymore. And then all of a sudden, things started changing within the bowl practices, and you started seeing a little bit more team unity, a little bit more camaraderie. I think Breckenhager would speak about how that moment is kind of the thing that led to something good and something great for them going forward. And it did happen in year two. And then that brings us to Steve Sarkisian, because what's interesting about this one is Steve Sarkisian didn't come in, you guys got to do it my way. Damn it, F all you guys, F what you heard, F what you learned. Everything you guys learned was stupid. You guys suck. Da. That's Steve Sarkisian. I think I've told you guys about this before. Steve Sarkisian's approach is more of an NFL approach. Because in the NFL, you can't curse out players. You can't. You curse out a player as a coach in the NFL, you might get body slammed. It just might happen. I covered the NFL for years, dating back to when Tony Dungy was the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to John Gruden, to Raheem Morris, to Jim Schwartz. I covered the entire NFL for a couple of years for Yahoo. Let me tell you, I can tell you, you don't do that. It's more of a player relationship, respect. Let's talk. But the whole let me curse you out, that's why a lot of college coaches failed in the NFL for so many years, because they came in with that philosophy of, man, you're going to do what the hell I say, because they're used to doing that in college. You can't do that in the NFL. You won't last long. And guys that do that usually don't last long. And so coaches who don't have the power, that control, they often struggle. Look at Urban Meyer recently. The things that he thought he could get away with, by what was it, kicking a punter or something like that, or the kicker or something like that. You could do that in college and no one's going to say a word to you. You do that in the NFL, that becomes a story, and it's not a good one for you. You get what I'm saying? So Sarkisian comes in, and he takes a player kind of approach. And what we heard was, this is good. We like him. He's really cool, really laid back. What happened when the bullets started flying? What you thought was there, the camaraderie that you thought was there, the unity that you thought was there, after Arkansas, all bets were off. And you can see what happened is when the losses started piling up, to the point where the things that we were reporting on Orange Bloods, I was reporting specifically on Orange Bloods, about the things that were going on behind the scenes, the turmoil, the guys who were starting to lose faith in Sarkeesian, and they didn't have that belief that they said it. That's why I don't trust off-season stories. This is why I don't trust off-season narratives. This is why the most annoying part of the season for me is always the off-season, because people say and believe anything, and they will tell you, no matter where you're at, no matter what program it is in America, the strength and conditioning program is better. The new coaches that have come in are better. The new coach, that head coach has come in, is better. This team is more stronger, more unified than ever before. There's barbecues that are taking place. There's a camaraderie that they've never seen before. Everybody says the same thing. Everybody says the same thing. I guarantee you, get on the Kansas Rival site and read what they're saying. I guarantee you, they're saying the exact same things. You get on the Sooner Scoop, and you'll see about how things are better, and potentially because Lincoln Riley isn't there. Like, Everybody says the same things. But when the bullets start flying in the regular season, that's when you really see, is what they said really, really true? Or is that what they were saying because it felt like the right thing to say? And then what happened in the seasons that we learned is that the guys were saying stuff, it was lip service. Because even Sarkeesian himself would say, I feel like this is a team that can compete for a Big 12 title. I feel like even though the roster wasn't constructed in a way that I would have constructed it, I still feel like we have a lot to work with here. Even Sarkeesian believed that he had the answers, that this was a team that he can win with. And we know what happened. And we know what really, that game happened, right? Don't want to conjure up memories, but we know exactly what happened there. And so as you start thinking about this offseason in year 2 and how important this really is for Sarkeesian, he revealed something that I think that's what I want to go back to, that I believe is really important for this conversation that when we have going into the off season, in the off season, heading into Big 12 media days, training camp, and of course the season kickoff in September. When he was at the Touchdown Club of Houston, and allow me to read this for a little bit off my phone here. And I got old eyes when you got to take it off, because these aren't my readers, these are my regular glasses. But if I had my contacts in, I had to put in my readers. So either way, allow me to read this to you. He goes, I don't think we were close enough as a football team when adversity struck in season. What I appreciate about this is now all of a sudden, he's lifting the veil. We're getting to go behind the curtain, and we're starting to see, okay, what were some of the things that went wrong that we were wondering what happened. He goes, why is that? Because I'm going to paint a little picture. This is not an excuse. I'm going to show you where I missed the mark. Here's why I appreciate this in this statement when he said, I missed the mark. Because I think one of the things I was a little bit critical of Sarkeesian last season was, and even a little bit in the early part of this year, was it was too much for me on what the players did wrong and not what the coaches did wrong. I had asked Sarkeesian one time, I said, hey, since players win games and coaches lose them, what could you do as a coach and the staff do a little bit better? And his response was, I've never heard that statement. It's one of the oldest statements that has ever been around football. It's like, I never heard that statement because we win as a team and we lose as a team. I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard it ever since I was a kid in football. But any case, him saying, hey, this is where I missed the mark, for me is one of the times I've heard him say he's taking accountability for something that he should have done and he could have been doing better. Because when I took the job, we were in the process of finishing the South End Zone, which is our new facility, which is an amazing facility. And NMU that helped build that project and build that facility, thank you. We love being there. Because but for the first 8 months on the job for me, we were in the North End Zone. Our team, our players, were in the visitors' locker room. He goes, you guys know where the visitors come out in the corner of the end zone. That's where our team dressed. That's where they were. My office was on the 7th floor in the old compliance office. You need a little bit of a remote map if you want to come and find me and have a meeting with me. Because our defensive staff, it literally took me a week to find out where they were, because they were tucked all the way back by the bathrooms off the elevator of the 7th floor. Hopefully he's exaggerating. I hope it didn't take him a week. Like I imagine that's, right? I imagine his coach is smart enough that it didn't take him like every single day. He's trying like, I don't know where these guys are. Like I'm assuming it wasn't like a full week. Okay. But the point is well taken. Okay. Because we met as a team on the 8th floor in the concourse where the big bar is in the North End Zone, where there's the big Tito sign over here. I have a big Deep Eddie sign over here and had a pop-up screen over here. And our players sat in chairs like the one you're in right now, 6 feet apart in the concourse area. And this is where he goes into what he feels like the crux of the situation was. Because we had nowhere to congregate as a team. Our position meetings, were the suites that some of you may sit in on the 7th and 8th floors. We had no gathering area, no way for our players to connect, but I totally missed it. Because, and again, I love the honesty. I really do. I love the honesty right here. I totally missed it. Appreciate him saying that. Because in the midst of COVID, in the midst of the ice storm, in the midst of all that crap that was going on when I first got here, I didn't do enough to connect our football team to where they can be accountable to one another. How can I say that again? I feel like I'm preaching here. I didn't do enough to connect our football team to where they can be accountable to one another. They worked hard, they tried hard, they were prepared, but there wasn't enough accountability. There wasn't enough. I'm doing this for the guy next to me. I'm working this hard for the guy next to me. I don't want to let my teammates down. I don't want that guy across from me. I don't want to let that person down. And inevitably, this is the key. When adversity struck in the season in the fourth quarter, we didn't know how to respond. And so I appreciate it, right? As a guy, I don't believe in giving people crap over stuff when you don't feel like they're doing it, but when they finally do it, you don't acknowledge it, right? So I think it's important for me to acknowledge once again. I love the transparency. I love the honesty. I love him falling on the sword. I love it not being about the players or the talent or anything else, but it's him saying, hey, this is where I failed. This is the things that I missed the mark on. This is where I should be doing better and could be doing better. This is on me, Steve Sarkisian. I think if you're a Texas fan, you got to be encouraged by that, because when you have a guy who's looking inward and not outward, you have a guy who's not pointing fingers at anyone else, but pointing fingers at himself. That evolution, that growth is what you want to see in your head football coach, because we got to remember within this conversation, in the context of Steve Sarkisian, and then what I'm going to say, it's not an insult, but it's just factual. He's still proving himself as a head coach. And so what that means is there's still something to learn, because we know he still hasn't won more than 8 regular season games. He's got 9 with a bowl victory, but we know for the most part that he's been around the 7-win mark for the majority of his career. So he's still learning. And now he's at the University of Texas, which, by the way, the expectations are, I don't know, pretty damn high, pretty huge, right? I mean, that's not sugarcoating it. That just is what it is. And so he's learning. And I think one of the things when he finally did some inventory and said, you know what could I have done better? Because that's how we all grow. That's how we all get better in life. It's always looking, what can I do that's better? One of the things that, in my post-marriage life, and one of the things that my girl appreciates about me, she said something to me recently. She said, one of the things I really love about you is because you never speak bad about the mother of your children or mothers of your children. She goes, you never say a negative word about them. Because you know what? Because at some point, it's about looking inward. And it's so easy for so many people. You ever seen people that get out of a relationship and all they do is speak bad and ill about the person that they were with? This person didn't do that. They didn't do that. I didn't like this or that. They argued all the time. Then they come home. It's just like this all these bad things. And it's like they did nothing wrong. But when you grow and mature, you can look at it and say, you know what? That person did some couple of things wrong, but you know what? This was a bad fit, bad situation. This wasn't meant to be, but I'm in a better place now and I'm happy. And that's what I like where he's saying it's almost like he's in a better place now. He understands the things that he did wrong. And at the end of the day, he's not looking to point the finger at anyone else. He's happy. He's content. He understands this is where I failed. And this is how I can get better. What does that mean? That means that the summer becomes incredibly important for them, especially when you're talking about 30 plus new additions. And if he feels like there wasn't enough camaraderie, so when the adversity hit, it wasn't, man, this ain't on me. I did my assignment. I did my job. I've done enough. Where is this person at? The loafing, whatever the things that he saw and experienced, the things that he believed led to this team not doing so well. Sarkeesian was able to address that and understand, okay, this is how they get better. So now this summer, where everyone's all together, and look, if this is how he feels, this is the problem, and he's addressing it, so be it. Like, that's what you want. Like, I know it's easy from a skepticism standpoint to say, come on, dude. Are you telling me the thing that really was the problem was that your guys couldn't be together in a locker room, so on and so forth. Like, really? Actually, can I give you guys? Let me give you a just a micro example how I actually think he's actually 100% on something. So I told you guys my kids play AAU. My son plays AAU basketball, and I've noticed at the first part of the season, but none of the kids really knew each other. It's a brand new team. There's a lot of new additions. There's some old carryovers, but there are a lot of kids who are brand new. And my son is one of those new kids as well. And because these kids didn't have relationships with each other, what happened was certain kids would just pass to each other because they're familiar with each other. They would look at another kid who was open and pass it to their friend who had two people around them. You have turnovers, you have miscommunication, you have all kinds of things. But here's what became really interesting. As the season started to go along and the kids started talking to each other, the new kids started talking to the old kids, and they were able to start to form relationships and start talking about, of all things, Roblox, of being able to set how to connect on Roblox and play with each other. And so you got the new kids playing with the old kids. And then what I've noticed ever since that those kids started connecting, the team started playing together, because now all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's such and such my friend. Oh, that's such and such my friend. And even though it's a subconscious thing, them being that really unified them because they were able to be around each other, spend time around each other, get to know each other. I know it's an AAU basketball example and it's a small thing, but it's a big thing. If you expand it out to the conversation that we're having. And what he's saying is, yeah, I had guys all spread out. And so, yeah, it's hard to connect. It's hard to get to know someone. It's hard to really connect with someone when you don't really know them that well. I mean, look, if you go out with one of your coworkers that you casually know, it's something someone steps to them at a bar or a happy hour, you might be like, hey, Ted, like, relax, man. Just let this thing go. And if someone steps to him and that's your boy, you'll probably get up. You'll rise up and say, hey, because that's your person, right? And so what we saw in the fourth quarter, when teams were rising up on Texas, we saw them kind of cowering down. I mean, it would explain fully why this team went into 3 games with double-digit fourth quarter leads and blew all 3 of them. It would fully explain how Arkansas happened, and this team never recovered after Arkansas started to happen. I mean, it was once Arkansas started pouring it on, there was a give up that we saw that happened within this team. And we saw inevitably what happened at the end of the season when one team started punching at Texas at home and really started swinging. And we just saw them like, and you knew it, you could feel it, you could sense it. You're like, this is going to happen. And it did. And so now when you start talking about this new influx of players, when you start talking about these new guys who are going to be here part of the program and getting acclimated and getting known each other and used to each other and how important that really becomes, everything Sarkisian says makes sense. So that's why I started thinking about how important it is for him to, 1, to have recognized it, 2, to address it, and then 3, try to be doing something different about it. And so, again, we don't need to necessarily hear barbecue stories, right? We don't need to hear about the summer of ping pong. We don't need to hear about guys throwing in the street. We don't necessarily need to hear about all those things. And at the end of the day, it won't matter as much, because I always tell you, like, everyone's got that narrative if this team doesn't win. Because, look, we understand it's important that this team wins this year. It's important that you go from 5-7 and get to an acceptable mark that Texas fans are going to be happy with. I feel like 8 is the absolute floor for happiness for Texas fans. I feel like 8 wins is the floor. I feel like anything less than that, you're going to have the natives restless. That doesn't necessarily mean Steve Sarkisian loses his job like that. I'm not trying to suggest anything to that effect. But when you start talking about an unhappy summer, when you start talking about an unhappy fan base, You start going less than 8, it's probably going to start being an unhappy fan base because that, there's certain things we understand are going that this team has, and we'll talk more about it as we get to the season. There's going to be challenges that this team has, this team faces. We're going to have an offensive line that's going to be need some work. And by the way, we'll face Alabama in week 2. So we know that what that challenge ahead looks like. You got receivers that are going to have to find ways to gel and get the different kind of playing time there. You got a defensive line that's going to have to find a way to step up. Linebackers, that a unit that Steve Sarkisian has expressed a lot of concern about that depth. But even with the addition of the transfer, they got to see what that looks like. What does the secondary look like? What does Gary Patterson's influence look like? And oh, by the way, there's a redshirt quarterback who's going to be playing, for the first time since high school. I mean, it's a significant time, obviously, but really it's the first time since high school, who's going to have to survive behind an offensive line that we look at today and say, I don't know how good that is. So we know there's challenges that are going to lie ahead. And so it's unfair to put the lofty goals on this team. It's unfair to say 10, 11, anything crazy like that. I don't want to hear anyone say CFP because unless you're putting down that bet, don't put it down in the comments. But if he's able to take that step that he needs to take after taking a step back for this program to take the step forward, if that's the main component that it's going to take to get these new guys on the same page, ready to go, understanding each other in summer conditioning, getting that camaraderie that he feels like is necessary, feel like this is where he missed the mark last year, but this is where this team needs to improve in order to take the next step, the next goal, then you as a Texas fan, be happy with that, celebrate it, keep your fingers crossed, hope for the best. And at worst, maybe hope that that barbecue party does work for the University of Texas. All right, listen, I appreciate you. Thank you. If you made it this far, then definitely give me a like. Definitely subscribe to it. I appreciate you guys, your support as always. We'll have more content that's on this channel. Hell, I don't want to say tomorrow because I have no clue when you're watching this. Maybe you're watching this as it's being recorded here in the month of June. Maybe you're watching this 3 years from now. And I'm speaking to you, whoever you are in the future. No matter what it is, please support the channel. Please like, hit subscribe. Appreciate everything you do. Thanks to our main man, Blake, who's always behind the scenes doing all the producing. Everything you see on the screen that moves and does anything outside of me, that's Blake's responsibility. Well, in the decorations, Blake didn't do none of that. I'll be honest with you. But everything else, computer generated, Blake did that. So thank you for Blake for everything you do. Hey, stay tuned. We'll have more on this channel soon. You guys take care. See ya.